Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for Euro 2020 fantasy football content. My name is Dan and today I've got for you the buy, sell, keep, avoid episode for match day 3 of the Euros. Now, of course, we're going to be talking about all kind of players, all kind of traps, all kind of potential players we should be getting on, some differentials, everything you could possibly need, all to do with your transfers. All today in this video. Hopefully it's going to be really useful for you guys, so if it is, please do leave a like. It really does help the channel, and of course if you're new, please subscribe, because I know for a fact that 60% of you watching this video are not subscribed, so please do join me for more fantasy content, and we're going to help you win your mini leagues and all that good stuff. So guys, without further ado, a quick word on the rules of the video. So buys are players you probably don't have but should consider bringing in, sells are players that you probably have but should consider removing, keeps are players you probably have and should keep, and avoids are players that you probably don't have but you should avoid bringing them in. So it's all about bandwagons, it's all about differentials, it's all about picking the right transfers. Now, the main topic of today's video is going to be rotation, the rotation of the players in the first 11 of the teams. Now, teams who have already qualified for the knockout stages, they're likely to heavily rotate their squad and rest some players for this game. As a general rule, if a player has won both of their first 2 games, then avoid any player who has started both of those first games for them. Of course, this is just a rough general rule. This match day is going to cause a huge amount of stress, a lot of upset, but hopefully, guys, I can pull you through this. So our first buy of today is Kevin De Bruyne. I think De Bruyne is definitely the standout pick for this match day. Yes, Belgium won their first 2 games, but he needs more game time. So KDB was out for the pre-tournament friendlies and out for the first group game against Russia. He then returned for the second half of the match day 2 Denmark game, and what a performance that was as well. If anyone needed any reminding of how good KDB is, this was it. A goal, an assist, you know, a couple of shots, a couple of key passes. He completely lifted the game, turned it around against a very tough looking Denmark team indeed. That's what he can do in 45 minutes of football despite being out of action, you know, for several weeks. But like I said, it's 45 minutes of football. It's not really enough game time going into those crucial knockout games. So out of all of the big players in the tournament, every single one is going to be a little bit of a rotation risk, to be fair. As for De Bruyne, he's a very rare occasion where a premium player is actually very likely to start. So, yeah, definitely worth having a go. I think he can get maybe 60, 70 minutes in this game. I probably don't expect him to play the full game, but like I said, we saw what he can do in 45 minutes against Denmark. Now think of what he can do in even more time against an even easier opposition, a weaker opposition in Finland. Now, a few of you guys may be asking at this point, what about Eden Hazard? Obviously, Hazard is in a similar situation as KDB in terms of playtime, but even though I think Hazard will start the Finland game, I don't think he'll make as much of an impact. He returns to form very slowly after injury. His form hasn't been great for a long while now anyway, and unlike KDB, I just think he's far more risky, whereas KDB is a much safer, you know he's going to perform really well. So if you're picking one, make it De Bruyne. If you fancy a risk on his second, then okay, maybe you can go for Hazard then. My second buy is Roman Yaremchuk, all to play for Ukraine. 1 game left against a pretty flat-looking Austria team, and this could be a pretty open one. So both teams are competing for qualification to the knockout round, and since it could go down to goal difference, it could be goals galore. Neither team has defended particularly well this tournament so far, and Ukraine in particular have looked very strong going forward. Very attacking, brilliant to watch, so I would definitely recommend going for 1 or 2 Ukraine players. We can go for maybe a Yarmolenko, a Malinovsky, a Zinchenko, but my boy, Yaremchuk is just gotta be the one for me. You know, 1, because, well, my other buy is a midfielder, and I like to mix it up, do some different positions in this video, and 2, whilst it would be easy to say, you know, put up a case for Yarmolenko, I really genuinely do think that Yaremchuk has been Ukraine's best player at the tournament so far. And, you know, he has got 3 goal returns in 2 games already. 2 goals, 1 assist. I think he's a pretty safe bet, to be fair. He's an in-form striker playing a weak opposition. His team still have a lot to play for. And these are just some great positives when we're picking out players for this match day. These are kind of motivations that we want to find, and to make things better, he only costs 7.1 million, which is such a bargain, really, isn't it? So overall, he is a very nice pick for this week. On to some sales, we'll start you off with Kylian Mbappe, one of the most popular players in the entire tournament for fantasy, and rightly so. I mean, what a beast. By the time you watch this video, he may have scored a hat-trick against Hungary, but even if he has, don't be too tempted to keep him. I'm making a big assumption here, but assuming France beat Hungary, they may make many changes to their team to play Portugal in Matchday 3. But this could also depend on the result of the other game, Portugal versus Germany. So if Germany beat Portugal, then expect a second string France team. If Portugal beat Germany, I do expect that France will still play a few of their main players, but not all of them. There still will be some rotation. In the case of a draw, France should have a kind of a mixed team, really. But in any case, it's going to be an absolute minefield when we're trying to pick some players. And the worst thing is, since they play on the last day, France, you could actually end up sacrificing points in order to risk whether your French players are going to play or not. Or you could find yourself not even being able to field 11 players. I feel like a good strategy to go for in this fantasy game is to make sure that the players who play later on in the match day, the players who play on the last day, the second to last day, these should kind of be your safety players, I guess. The safe, guaranteed to start, easy captain choices, those kind of players. And I'm not sure Mbappe and France represent this on match day 3. Best case scenario, Mbappe starts against a tough, low block Portugal team. Worst case scenario, he gets rotated out of one of, Giroud, Thuram, Ben Yedder, Dembele, Lamar. So, yeah, there's quite a few players that could actually come in and play ahead of Mbappe. So, yeah, seems like a really risky one, and certainly not a player I'd want to have going into matchday 3. My second sell is Mason Mount, a huge budget option for England, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have him in your team ready to face Scotland and then Czech Republic. Again, I'm making a huge assumption here that England either beats or draw with Scotland, but even if they don't, England are in a very unique position where they will actually be better off if they come second in their group rather than first. And I'm not saying they'll want to lose their third game, certainly not, but if England beats Scotland later today, there literally won't be a team in the whole competition more motivated to rotate the squad and rest some players, because even if they win all 3, they're going to need a fit and fresh squad to face one of France, Portugal or Germany. We also have a kind of a track record with Gareth Southgate and England fielding a super weak team in the final group match. So I saw a picture on Twitter of how England lined up in their third group game in the World Cup in 2018. I almost couldn't believe how weak it was. There was players, all of these players were starting, players like Phil Jones, Fabian Delph, Gary Cahill, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, who must have only been like 18 at the time, fresh on the scene Marcus Rashford. So pretty much every first choice outfield player was benched in that third group game last time. And I think exactly the same thing is going to happen again here today. Well, not today, well, whenever the game takes place. So I picked out Mason Mount, guys, in this video as a sell because he's a really popular pick, selected by 30% of you guys. But really, this kind of applies to any first choice England players. Just sell them all. Of course, on the other hand, if you're feeling spicy, it may be worth going for some England players who haven't started yet. Rashford, DCL, Saka, maybe. If you fancy a risk, why not? Maybe one of them gets a bit of game time and can be a nice differential for you. On to some keeps. We'll start off with Federico Chiesa, or Chiesa. Chiesa was earmarked as a kind of a great pick before the tournament started. Unfortunately, he hasn't managed to start a game yet, but when he has been on the pitch, he's looked pretty good to me. So with Italy already qualified and due to rotate, and a game against the weak on paper defence of Wales, there could be goal scoring opportunities. So those of you with Chiesa still hanging around your squad, I actually think that he could be a great pick for the final group game. His Italy record is not that great, but that's mostly because many of his caps have been from the bench. Typically, he's been a bit of a kind of a bit part player for Italy, but if he's coming back, off a great club season with Juventus, which he is, 15 goals, 11 assists this season, which is pretty mad at club level. He's got a lot to prove if he wants to force himself into the first team during the knockout stages. There's going to be a lot of motivation here from a very talented player. It's a great price too, 7 million for a top midfielder. I know midfield has kind of been a bit of a tricky position to call so far this season as well, so this could be your answer really, just keeping Chiesa in your team. And if you're worried about him not starting, don't worry, Italy play first once again. We'll have that team news before kickoff, so a bit of relaxation there, I guess. You can always make that last minute switch. My next keep is Owen Wijndal. Now, Wijndal has been one of the, I guess, shocks of the tournament. A lot of us who researched the Netherlands team ahead of this tournament, you know, Dutch fans at home, we were all confident that he'd been the main man at left wing back. As it turns out, Patrick van Aanholt has started both games so far, and honestly, this has been a real surprise, but he's not going to be bench fodder forever for the Netherlands, is he? So 2 wins for the Netherlands. We're expecting some rotation. I think of the teams to win 2, the Netherlands won't massively rotate perhaps as much as the others, because their manager De Boer has said, although he wants to rest players, he also wants to ensure that they keep that winning rhythm type thing, and he also wants to make sure they practice that 5-3-2 formation that they haven't been using for very long. Remember, they only switched to this system in the past month, so it's pretty new to them, so they want to keep that going. As such, I do expect the spine of the team to be retained. As for the players who maybe are slightly injury prone, maybe coming off the back of injuries and stuff like that, they'll be rotated. And the fullbacks, they kind of seem like a pretty obvious place to rotate without breaking the system, right? So since Wijndal has probably been the unluckiest so far to not start for the Netherlands, he's a real obvious choice to me. So whilst many of you guys will be tempted to cut your losses and sell him, I think it's worth one more roll of the dice. See how this attacking fullback does against a weak North Macedonian team who haven't really threatened much in attack. Yeah, a special shout out as well to Joachim Mahler as well, because I almost added him as a keep. I think he's another guy. If you've still got Mahler in your team from Denmark, 4.5 million defender, then I would keep him as well. He looks pretty good. So yeah, on to some avoids? I think so. Avoid Ciro Immobile. As I said before, Italy will rotate. They're qualified for the next round. They're looking good, and they have Wales, the fixture that they probably earmarked as the easiest of the 3 fixtures that they had. Now, I don't know how true that is in retrospect, but Italy probably thought if they won their first 2 games, this would be a perfect game to rest some of their players, and I would expect them to go through with that plan. So going into this tournament, Immobile, he was kind of only playing slightly more games than Belotti anyway for Italy. So Immobile was preferred to Belotti, but kind of only just, which makes me think Immobile is kind of an obvious candidate to be dropped for Belotti for this game. Immobile is kind of, he's been hyped right now, completely understandably. He's done fantastically well so far this tournament. I do expect more for him later on in the tournament. He's gained a few admirers, hasn't he? A few of you guys are probably thinking, hey, let's bring him in. I think you might be disappointed, though, if you do bring Immobile in. Of course, we will find the lineups of Italy before the transfer deadline, so I would recommend just waiting. Don't plan your squad around Immobile, and then I guess if you get a pleasant surprise that he's back on the cards, then you can make your move. My final avoid is Lucas Hernandez, another popular transfer in, a clean sheet and an assist in the first game, clearly very attacking. He could be on for some great points against Hungary too in Matchday 2. However, even if France aren't 100% kind of wrapped up in guaranteed first place in the group, he is still a rotation risk. So we've kind of got Luca Digne. He's an insanely good backup to have at left back. He will probably get some game time. I can really see that. I can see Digne coming in for this final group game, leaving Hernandez on the bench, so no clean sheet points or anything like that. But then even if Hernandez were to start, what's the best case scenario? So the Matchday 3 fixture for France is against Portugal. We saw against Germany that France did actually concede a few decent chances. It's going to take, it's only going to take the quality of Cristiano Ronaldo to turn one of those chances into a goal. So best case scenario, a clean sheet, that's far from guaranteed, even if Hernandez were to start, much less an attacking return as well. So overall, yeah, avoid Hernandez. So to summarise, guys, avoid players who have already qualified for the next round unless you're feeling spicy. Expect rotation. If you think you can outwit the rotation, then go for it. Pick some players who haven't played before or something like that. I do think that's a good idea. Taking a risk can often be the difference between a good score and a great score, but this could also be a really good opportunity to go for some players who still have everything to play for. Qualifications for many teams will go down to goal difference, so expect lots of goals this round as well. Guys, thank you so much for watching this latest episode of Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid. If you did enjoy the video, please do leave a like. Really helps out the channel. And of course, like I always say, please subscribe because I reckon we can get to 60,000 subscribers pretty soon, to be fair, if you guys help me out. I think we can do it within the next couple of weeks. That would be amazing if we could do that, certainly before the end of the Euros. Let's see what we can do. But yeah, guys, I will be doing my team reveal, my wildcard team reveal tomorrow, and then we'll be streaming on Sunday. So yeah, plenty of stuff to come still. The Euro content doesn't stop. I'm really enjoying doing it. I hope you guys are enjoying it as well. So yeah, once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later, mates. Bye bye.